I went to the bathroom at a wedding and found a newborn baby in the trash can. I was the event manager, and near midnight, I always do fast bathroom checkups because guests get drunk and collapse sometimes. So I walked in expecting spilled drinks when I heard a tiny sound from the trash by the sink. So I lifted the lid and my stomach dropped because a newborn baby was inside, cold and barely moving. So I instantly took off my jacket, wrapped the baby tight, and held him against my bare chest so my body heat could warm him up fast. I sprinted into the service hall to my colleagues and yelled into my radio, "Call an ambulance now," which was a mistake because all the guests could hear it and became suspicious. But then the worst thing hit me. If the baby is here, the mother must also be here and could bleed to death alone. So I handed the baby to my calmest worker and told her to keep it warm while I started looking for the mother. Luckily, security showed up fast, but I was shocked because the first thing they did was not helping or asking if the baby or the mom is okay. Instead, they looked past me toward the ballroom where all the guests were and whispered, "Don't let anyone see this thing," because they feared a scandal more than 2 deaths and wanted to maintain a good image of their business. Then it got even worse when one of them even tried to carry the baby away, like it was a problem to hide. So I snapped, told them that the mom is bleeding somewhere, and if we waste time, they both die. Then, against their will, I split them up to search the mother. But as they started walking around at the slowest pace in the world, I knew I had to do it alone, and so I pulled aside every staff member and asked if they'd seen anything, but it backfired hard, because I noticed as I asked a server, "Did you see a woman run to a bathroom, sir?" He said, "No," but his hands were shaking, and he wouldn't look at me, which made me furious, because the clock was ticking and I could tell some of them knew something, but nobody wanted to be the person who says it out loud and becomes the one who ruined the wedding. That's when I nearly lost it and was about to do the last thing I had left, what you should normally never do because scaring the guests is a big no-go as an event manager. But I didn't care about the wedding anymore because saving 2 lives are way more important than a party. So I walked in the ballroom to ask the guests if they saw anything, when suddenly I saw 2 guests running to me first, and one of them said, "We can't find the bride." Then the other one added, "And the groom is already freaking out! Please find her!" Inside, my blood went cold, because for one scary second I thought, what if she is the bleeding mom? But I forced a smile, nodded, and told them, "We're on it," because they could not know what was really going on. That was the moment when me and everyone on staff started moving all at once, because if the bride was bleeding somewhere, the whole wedding could blow up in minutes. So I told security to spread out into the halls and ran with them. But halfway down the 2nd floor, as we kicked open the door to the bride's room and she wasn't there either, a clear picture hit my mind. I had helped the bride just 4 hours ago when I fixed her dress myself, and there was no big belly at all, so I freezed for half a second, because I realized we were chasing the wrong person, and the bride being missing was indeed a scary problem for the wedding, but the real mom was still hidden bleeding somewhere, and time was almost gone, so I almost got a heart attack, as the DJ started calling everyone through the speaker at full volume for the first dance of bride and groom. I felt real panic, because even more people gathered, and if the dance started, the room would flood the halls, and we'd have nowhere to move a baby or a bleeding girl without anyone seeing it. So I ran to the DJ, begged him to buy us some time, and sprinted back to my colleagues, when suddenly I heard a little gasp behind a staff-only door. It was locked, but the handle was loose, like someone had rushed in, so I pushed it open and saw a girl curled up in the dark, holding her jacket tight, and could hardly believe my eye, because the mother wasn't a woman, it was a teenage girl. But my jaw dropped as I looked closer at her face, because I realized who she was and would have expected anyone else on this wedding to be the mom, but never ever her, because it was the bride's 15-year-old little sister, aka the quiet kid nobody ever looks at. So I instantly called all my colleagues to come to her as fast as they could while I was calming her down. But as she saw me and my team members running in, holding the baby wrapped in my jacket, she started sobbing even more. We assumed that she cried out of happiness to see her baby again, so I said, "Here it is," and tried to hand the mother her newborn child back in her arms. But she turned her head and whispered, "I can't." Then she broke completely and told us the truth why she threw it away and doesn't want it back. "It was a one-night stand with this stupid boy from my school," she whispered. "It all started at prom because his girlfriend had just broken up with him that day. So he ran outside behind the gym, drunk, crying into his hands. And the worst part was that people kept walking past him, pointing and laughing at him like he was nothing. So I thought I should just keep walking too, but I couldn't, because I'd had a crush on him since 5th grade and even wrote him love letters back then. But he never answered, because he said that I am the stupid, quiet kid, which I fortunately still am today. So in my head, I told myself, this is my only chance to matter to him. That's why I sat down next to him and tried to calm him down. And my plan worked pretty well, because she got cut off. Because out of nowhere, a little kid suddenly popped out of the closet in the corner of the room. For a full second, nobody moved. And the kid just stood there in the middle of the room, staring at all of us, but especially at the women with her baby. The security guy was also very confused and asked, careful and low, "Hey buddy, what are you doing in here?" He pointed back at the closet and said, "That was my hiding spot for hide and seek. Pretty good, huh?" Nobody answered. We all just kept staring at him because he literally saw everything. Then the kid suddenly sprinted out of the room so fast, his shoes squeaked on the floor and disappeared into the hallway. But here's the weird part. The girl just kept talking as if nothing happened because she finally needed to get the whole story off her chest. "Okay, anyways," she said. So my plan worked pretty well, because for 1 second he looked at me like I was the only person in the world who actually saw him. And that look messed me up so bad because it was the first time in my life I really felt wanted. Then he leaned in and kissed me, and of course I didn't stop it, because in that moment it felt like everything I'd imagined with him finally became reality. So I took my chance, and we went somewhere nobody could see us. But the next morning he acted like I didn't exist, and I realized that he was just using me and wasn't really in love with me. The whole room went dead silent. And if they find out, they will throw me out. "Who?" I asked. "My family," she said, "because my dad is a famous politician, which means cameras everywhere, people talking, and a family that cared more about image than feelings." And now it finally made sense to us why she had to keep it a secret. "I'm so sorry for you," I said, but you could... I stopped talking because I could hear someone outside yelling, "Call 911. Then another voice screamed, "There's a baby!" And suddenly we heard the whole crowd moving at once towards our room. I was so confused and didn't know what was going on or what I should do, because how did they even know? So I freaked out and shouted at security, "Block the door and keep them back." But even with 3 security guards blocking the door, all the guests who had gathered by then could still see the mother with her baby inside the room. And when the paramedics finally arrived, it got even worse, because they opened the hallway door, ran straight through the crowd with all their equipment and the large stretcher. So everyone saw it and started screaming and crying. The medics didn't care because every second counted. So they went straight to the baby and the mother, who was getting worse and worse, and said, "Oxygen mask, now!" Another looked at the girl and snapped, "She's in shock, lift her." But the second they turned towards the door and a strange man blocked their way, I finally understood how the guests found us. We made a huge mistake earlier because we were so surprised by that stupid little 6'7" kid, we just let it go. And that's why he was able to tell everyone. But as the paramedics tried to push through, someone stepped into the doorway and blocked the stretcher. I thought that now it couldn't get any worse, but it did. When the weird man shouted, "Give me the baby!" and the girl's head snapped up from the stretcher, whispering in a shaky voice, "Dad, stop!" My stomach dropped because it was him, the famous politician we talked about a second ago, aka her father. So I stepped in front of him and shouted, "This is life or death, sir!" But as he still wouldn't move, security grabbed him by the arms. But as he fought them like a wild animal, I saw why he was panicking. Because outside the parking lot, the press was already there. And they weren't waiting politely either, because they were filming through the glass, taking pictures, yelling his name, and pushing microphones forward like this was a show. In the hallway, everything happened at once. The paramedics rolled the stretcher out, the guests split into 2 lines, and the girl's mom and sister, aka the bride, who luckily showed up again, were suddenly right there at the back, staring like they saw a ghost. Her mom broke down instantly, her hands flying to her mouth, but the bride looked furious through her tears, because she wasn't just shocked, she felt betrayed. And right when the stretcher reached them, her mom stumbled forward with tears pouring down her face and cried, "Why didn't you tell us?" Then the sister, the bride, stepped in too and shouted, "You ruined everything, you little..." But as she wanted to end her sentence, the politician freed himself from security and tried to push himself in front of the stretcher again because he wanted the cameras to see him in control, not his daughter shaking and bleeding. That's when, after literally 20 minutes, the police finally came and rushed in because the hallway was completely out of control now. So they pulled the crazy politician away while reporters chased them with questions. And the moment they pushed him toward a police car, everything happened at once. I saw camera flashes light up his face as the police and ambulance doors slammed shut. Then the sirens turned on, and both vehicles drove away. So at the end, the baby lived. The girl also lived, but the wedding didn't. Comment your opinion and subscribe for more exciting stories. God bless you.